Everybody makes mistakes, right? I do. But what are 10 mistakes that a new collector in today's world of coin collecting makes? And how do you fix those mistakes? Hey there, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Blaine. I am your host for some good coin learning videos. I have made numerous ones. If you have not had an opportunity to look at them or watch them, please go to my YouTube channel if you get a chance and take a peek at those because there are some good learning videos on there about coins. A little bit of background and history on this particular video. This video is going to cover a subject that I feel kind of needs to be covered. And it came about as a result of an interaction I had with someone about 2 weeks ago who contacted me because his son Matthew was heavily into wanting to start collecting coins. And he didn't know where to begin. The person that contacted me, his name is Jan, and I made the mistake right off the bat. I'll tell you right now, I made the mistake of considering that and thinking that Jan was a girl. And come to find out, Jan not only is a guy, but where Jan comes from, another country, that particular country, Jan is actually a very popular name for guys. And that's cool. My mistake. I corrected myself and I apologized profusely for it. Um, but the interesting part, Jan has been in the United States for a little, almost 20 years, roughly, from what I remember. And he divulged a few things about his past and stuff like that, and how his interactions with his family and things like that, and he really wants to kind of get into this for his son, and that's phenomenal, but he doesn't know where to begin. And so I thought to myself, let's make a video about 10 things. And this list is not comprehensive, by the way. There are a lot more than 10 things that can be added to this list. 10 things that new collectors tend to make as a mistake when they are attempting to start collecting coins. And I think you're going to find that this list, although not, like I said, comprehensive, covers quite a few things that the new collector tends to do or look at when it comes to coins. So let's dig into those 10 things, shall we, and see what we can come up with. Okay, let's jump right into this, shall we? Number one on the list, thinking that you have to learn it all quickly. Yep, huge mistake. And that particular mistake is one that I see over and over and over again. And I made it myself when I was a new collector. And what it comes down to, quite simply, is thinking that you literally have to learn everything that there is to know as quickly as possible in order to talk intelligently about coins. And the reason why this is a mistake more than anything else is that there are way too many things in this hobby to learn in a short amount of time. As I mentioned before, I've collected for 35 years or more, and I pretty much kind of specialize in Lincoln cents. And there's a reason and a method to my madness as to why I do this. It's quite simply put that one coin means that I have to learn as much as I can about that one particular coin. And I've done that. I've learned, especially over the course of the last 5 to 10 years, I have learned an immense amount about double dies. I have learned an immense amount about repunched mint marks, which I was never into before. I've also learned an incredible amount about just how coins are made. And that'll be a subject that I will cover here a little bit later in this video. But try not to get yourself out of focus. In other words, try as hard as you can to think about what it is that you want to learn and whether or not there's a particular denomination of coin that you want to learn the most about, something that intrigues you. Most people start with the Lincoln cent, and the reason why, they're so numerous. There's so much history behind it. It's been around for 100 and almost 20 years, something like that. Not quite, but getting there. What is it? It'd be 2029 would be 120 years. So we're coming up on it. And really, if you stop to think about that, that gives you an absolutely vast, immense amount of coins to study. So, first advice I can give everybody is pick your denomination. And after you've picked your denomination, maybe think about what it is that you want to do with that denomination. Do you want to collect a whole set of them? Do you want to try and learn about each individual year? And if that's the case, that's probably one of the best ways to start collecting coins. Start by building a set of a particular denomination. All right, number two on the list. Really easy one here, and that is do your research. I know that sounds kind of easy, but yeah, there are ways to do your research. Now, here's the interesting thing that I see when it comes to new collectors, and one of the mistakes that they make. They log on to Facebook, they get on and hop onto a couple of coin pages, which is great. That's fantastic. And then all they do is start throwing up coins and asking questions about them. Is this that? Is this this? Am I seeing this? What am I seeing? What's happening? Okay, look, I'm going to tell you one thing right now, and I'm going to be blunt and honest with you. Before the internet, people learned things just as well as with the internet. And I'm not saying that the internet can't be your friend, because it's a wealth of information, but doing your research means not just asking other people questions. It means physically going out to some of those sites like errorreference.com, like coppercoins.com, if you want to learn about repunched mint marks and varieties. Variety Vista is another one. I will leave links to all of these things in the main body of the video, or in the comments even, if you need to. And if I fail to do that, please do me a favor and just reach out to me. I'm happy to give you that information. But doing your own research will also help you with the first thing that I said of this video, which is figuring out what it is that you want to collect. Now, some people are into errors and varieties, and they think that they're really cool, and there's nothing wrong with that. I am not an error guy. I am not a variety guy. I know a little bit about both, but I know enough to be dangerous, and that's probably about it. There are people out here on these coin pages that know way more than I do about errors and varieties, and I am happy to let them answer the questions, because when they answer the questions, I myself also learn as well. So, number two on that list is pretty much what I explained, in making sure that you do your own research and try and do it as best you possibly can for what it is that you want to collect. All right. So, number three on this list, after learning to do your research, is learning the minting process. Now, this is important because in doing your research, you are going to stumble across things that you want to know more about. And whether it be errors and varieties, for example, which I mentioned in number two, that some people like to collect, you really can't understand an error or a variety coin until you learn the minting process. And I know that sounds strange, but you can't just look at a coin and say, hey, I know that's an error because it looks like one. You have to be able to explain how that error actually occurred in the minting process. Same goes for a variety. How did that variety actually evolve into a variety in the minting process? So, learning the minting process is probably cardinal rule when it comes to understanding coins and how they are made. Next on the list, number 4, treasure hunting. Yep, I had to cover it. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes a new collector can make. They get into this hobby not as a collector, but as a treasure hunter. And they think they're going to get rich right off the bat. I'm not saying that it can't happen. Trust me, there are people that have written books about it, getting rich with pocket change and so on and so forth. And I know the author of that particular book, and he's one heck of a coin collector. He knows his stuff. But people tend to get into this because they think they're going to find a $10,000 Lincoln cent in pocket change right off the bat of getting into treasure hunting. Not going to happen. I'll tell you that right now. And we see as you know a bunch of other friends of mine on Facebook pages that all have Facebook pages. One of the biggest mistakes people make is throwing up coins on a Facebook page and saying, "Hey, look at this! I've just found the next $10,000 coin," and we have to shoot them down and say, "Not so much. You don't have a $10,000 coin. You've got a 2-cent coin or a face value coin," and it's very frustrating on our side because we don't want to do that, and it wouldn't happen if the people would actually do their research and learn the minting process. So, becoming a treasure hunter is not a bad thing, but in order to become a treasure hunter, you have to do the previous couple of things first. And so being a treasure hunter is a huge mistake. And if that is the reason why you are in this, switch gears now. In other words, learn about coins first, then go hunting for the treasure after you have learned a healthy amount about those coins. All right, number 5 on the list is going to be a real short one because I don't want to get into any fights or arguments with anybody and get some nasty comments in the comment section below. So we're just going to make this easy. Number 5 is quite simply put, um, not listening to the experts that actually know what they're doing and talking about because they have learned the minting process and have done their research. And the sidekick to number 5 here is thinking you know it all. Yeah, trust me, I've been doing this 35 years and I still don't know it all. Number 6 on this list is a mistake that I see happen all the time with new coin collectors. It baffles me. It baffles a lot of people, especially people seasoned collectors. And don't get me wrong, they have their purpose, but not for the new coin collector. And that mistake that they make is a coin microscope like this. Again, it's not the world's worst thing, but reality says that when you have a coin microscope like that, you're going to analyze everything you possibly can about the surface of a particular coin. And if you haven't learned the minting process or done your own research and figured out what you actually want to collect, errors, varieties, nice coins, whatever, then a microscope is simply just going to cause you to get a really bad case of this word right here. And if you need to, Google it because it simply is defined as anything that you're seeing that your brain is telling you is something that's looking like something that's not actually what it is. And it happens to the best of us. It has happened to seasoned collectors all the time. but they know the difference between what should be there and what actually is there or isn't there, for that matter, because most coin collectors don't use a microscope when they first start out. They use one of these little guys right here, these coin loops. And even the professional coin grading services use nothing but a coin loop, a 10 power coin loop to look at coins. Now, I'm not saying that they don't necessarily have a microscope that they use if they're looking for something specific, but when they're grading coins, they use a 10 power magnifying loop, and that's it. So almost everything that you can see or should see or want to see on the surface of a coin can be found with a 10 power magnifying loop. Now, I have two different loops that I use. I use a 10 power and I use a 16 power. So if I look at it with a 10 power and I want to look at it closer, I use a 16 power. And then after I've determined that, yeah, that's something I really want to see and look at closer, I'll throw it on my microscope and look at it even closer. But do yourself a favor and start out collecting coins by using a 10 power magnifying loop. Okay, here we are. We're 6 in, we got 4 to go. I'm going to make these 4 easy because they all kind of tie together. I've got a little list down here so that I don't miss any of these 4 and that I can explain them relatively well, quick and easy. Now, what's interesting about these 4 items that I've got on this list right here is they all pertain to number 1 and number 2 on my list. And it's hilarious to watch people throw coins up on some of these Facebook pages that simply just say, "Hey, look at what I found," or "Check this particular thing out," and "Look at this double die that I found." Remember, it's not double die; it's doubled die. There's a difference there, and that means that if you do your research, you will actually learn what the difference between a double struck coin is, like I said, and a doubled die. So, first thing on the list, yeah, just that. What is machine doubling versus real doubling? And learn it, research it, try and figure it out. If you're really interested in doubled die coins, there's a great site to learn all about how doubled die coins are made. It's called Wexler's, and the name of his site is doubleddie.com. Make sure you spell it right, because if you only spell it doubledie.com, you're not getting anywhere. So, yeah, there's your first lesson on that one. All right, so next on the list, zinc blisters. Okay. Uh, hmm. Yeah, the number of people that throw up coins, Lincoln cents on these pages that have nothing but zinc blisters and say, "Hey, look at this! I've got a mint error." No, a zinc blister like these, they're just zinc blisters. Now, here's an interesting fact about zinc blisters. Did you know that they don't actually affect the grade of a coin? In other words, because they're made by the mint in that particular way, you can actually wind up getting a coin that has a whole bunch of them on it. And as long as that coin is in really nice shape, it'll grade really high. So it does not detract from the actual grade of that particular coin. Yeah. So learn about zinc blisters. And if you need to, contact me and I'll point you in the direction of a couple of really cool sites to learn some about that. Number 3, deteriorated die. All right. Look, uh, this one I could talk about for 2 hours because people just don't get it. And if you're new to coin collecting, you have to learn what a die does to a coin as it deteriorates in the minting process over the course of its life. And it creates some really weird looks to the surface of a coin. Now, here's what else is really interesting about deteriorated dies. One of the things I've noticed with Lincoln Sense is the fact that the deteriorated die tends to show up much more frequently on the obverse of the coin rather than the reverse of the coin. And I think part of the reason for that might have to do with the fact that the obverse of the coin is hit with what's called the hammer die, the part that actually moves, because the reverse die is stationary and is essentially what's known as the anvil die. And because of those two things, the die that's moving is the one that actually gets sort of flattened out over the course of time and creates these funky little ridge rings around the outside of the coin. And at the same point in time, it also starts meaning that you're going to get mushy things around the outside of the coin, as you can see in this particular picture right here. So it also can cause some doubling to happen on your numbers, especially in the date, because the die is not able to push the metal the same way that a fresh new die is. And so as a result, it creates these little waves, so to speak, on the shadow side of these numbers. So yeah, learn about die deterioration. Now, interesting enough, this pertains to understanding the minting process, because if you followed along in that whole explanation I just gave you about the anvil die versus the hammer die, you're probably like, I had no idea there was a difference between the two. Yeah, well, guess what? I didn't learn that particular tidbit, in fact, up until about 5 years ago. So 30 years after I started collecting coins, I finally figured out what the difference between a hammer die and an anvil die is. Yeah, well, there you go. Takes a while. All right, next. Yeah. Oh, this is a tough one. Large dates versus small dates. And this pertains to the treasure hunter, because there's a particular coin out there that people hunt thinking that they're going to get rich quick because they've got a 1982 Denver minted copper coin that is a small date. No, you don't. I can tell you that right now. Take a look at how many, and Google this because it's great. How many 1982 Denver minted Lincoln cents there were. And then ask yourself the likelihood of you finding one of them that is a small date copper. Now, I can tell you right now, you got a better shot at getting struck by lightning 4 times in the exact same place on the planet Earth. It's just not going to happen. So, but if you learn the difference between a large date and a small date, and by the way, there are other dates that qualify for this, not just 1982. There's also the 1960 large date, small date. I don't have a picture of the 1970 S large date and small date, but when I find it, I'll try and make a video about large dates and small dates for you. So there are other dates that qualify for this large date, small date thing, especially like within the Lincoln Cent series. And so if you learn the difference between the two, you can talk intelligently. Now, here's an interesting story, and I'll make this quick because I want to try and finish this video in a reasonable amount of time. I had somebody on a coin page the other day that called me out for spending $200 on a 1960 roll of Lincoln cents when they looked them up on eBay, and the 1960 rolls that they were looking up were all of $10. And they said, how can you possibly spend $200 on a 1960 roll of Lincoln cents when they sell for $10? Well, I'll tell you right now. It's because it was a roll of 1960 Philadelphia minted small date Lincoln cents, which, by the way, are exceedingly rare and almost impossible to find in today's world. And as a result, every single time I see one, I buy one. I don't care if it's $100 or if it's $200 or if it's $250. If it's in decent shape, I buy it because they're exceedingly rare. And same goes for a 1970 S roll of small dates. Yeah, they're next to impossible to find, to be completely honest with you. In all of my life collecting rolls of Lincoln Cents, I've only ever seen three. I own one because I was stupid enough not to buy the other two that I saw, and I should have. So, yeah, you know, that's what it is. So there you go. These are 10 mistakes, and the last four are actually just learning curve mistakes. And I can make several of these videos about other mistakes people make, but for the most part, if you follow these 10 steps, these 10 recommendations about what it is to learn, you are going to save yourself so much time when it comes to figuring out coins. And I hope that you have learned something from this video. If you have, please do me a favor. Subscribe if this video does actually make it onto my YouTube channel, and hit the like button. I would very much appreciate that as well. I appreciate it that you have watched all the way through. I know it is a long video. Hopefully you have learned plenty. And if you have questions, ask. Shoot me a message. Contact me. I'm more than happy to try and help you, as long as you promise you're going to learn from these mistakes. Thank you, everybody. You guys have a good evening. I appreciate it. And I am very happy to be back making videos.